To Özil or not to Özil? That was the question that felt strikingly relevant the last time Arsenal embarked on one of those typically complicated away assignments against a top opponent. In mid-September they went to Stamford Bridge, having been humiliated at Anfield, and sprang a surprise with the kind of robust discipline and tireless effort that was a leap out of stereotype. We all thought sagely, observing this atypical approach that seemed to be working much better than the usual big away day crumble. Before long everyone put two and two together and came up with an absent number 11. It was an interesting example of what Arsenal could do without their mercurial craftsman and his elusive gifts, which can waver when confronted by the highest intensity Premier League power. So it is only logical to think that Arsène Wenger would ponder deeply about how to set up his team for Sunday's difficult challenge at the stellar standard-bearers of the moment, Manchester City. The more conservative game plan Arsenal executed well at Chelsea seems an obvious one to replicate: quick in the tackle, compact shape, hard work on the flanks, and then burst into attack where possible. Alex Iwobi and Danny Welbeck were the two earnest runners who flanked the front man, Alexander Lacazette, that day, and it allowed Arsenal to impose some strong personality on the game. In a cubby-hole room along from the tunnel at the Emirates Stadium after Thursday's amble of a draw against Red Star Belgrade, Wenger considered the question of whether Özil presents him with something of a selection dilemma. Does the strategy that looks needed to give Arsenal a fighting chance at the Etihad lend itself to an Özil-less team selection? Wenger did not think for long, as his answer more or less confirmed that Özil will play. The temptation to play safe and trust in more hard-working options appears not to have had much pull. Özil is in very good shape physically, Wenger said. People speak now only about Sanchez, but, for us, Özil's performance on Sunday will be important as well. He will have to contribute a lot to the way we play. He can be an asset every time we attack because he creates chances. Reverting to the with Özil policy for this game is brave, risky, maybe foolhardy. But Wenger's loyalty to his players and optimism in their capabilities remains one of his most resolute characteristics. So maybe it is not such a shock if he does as he suggests. Arsenal's most recent away match, at Everton, yielded rewards for the front line of Özil and Alexis Sanchez playing off Lacazette. All of them scored and they produced abundant chances for one another. Whether they can protect the midfield and defense with enough determined diligence is another issue, although very few have been able to cope with City's zest and desire this season, whatever their best efforts. It is natural that Wenger should pick out how Özil creates chances as central to his thinking. Interestingly, the two leading players on chances created in the Premier League this season are Özil and Kevin De Bruyne with 30. Perceptions of the pair are quite different. Any team in the world would want De Bruyne right now, yet Arsenal did not receive any bids for Özil as he ran into the last year of his contract during the summer. But for singular talents such as these, the environment, the ingredients they have to mix with, make an important difference. A few years ago there was a peculiar television reality show called Wife Swap, when two women would switch families and homes for 2 weeks. Invariably, the editors would pick suitably weird combinations. How would a farmer's wife fare in a mansion in Chelsea and a wealthy madam get along with an early alarm call to deal with pigs? Well, you get the drift. Borrowing the analogy, imagine how club swap might turn out if De Bruyne and Özil switched for a few games. Hypothetically, would De Bruyne be less successful or Özil more so? Might De Bruyne lose enthusiasm if those around him were not clinical, or Özil be applauded more if a greater percentage of assists were finished off? Could De Bruyne get bogged down with trying to help out an imbalanced midfield, or Özil flourish because the men supporting him were more dominant in possession? It is food for thought, in terms of how we judge. Wenger still has faith that Özil can be a major influence, even though recent history suggests he has found it hard to be a defining force in big away games. Can he find the focus to relish a contest such as this? I think so, Wenger said. Every big player wants to play in the big games, and this is another big game. It might be a bit more of a regular game for City given their current refined standards. Wenger did not want to over-enthuse about Pep Guardiola's team, but he admires the way they are playing. I love to watch every team who tries to play well. I don't want to take anything away from Man City. They are doing extremely well. They are top of the league. They are top of their European group stage. But it is a good opportunity for us to show we can compete with them. That's what we want to show.